passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in, touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
A swing and a drive to deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman, I'm Jarid Watson, and this podcast is a part of Waiting for Next Year. Check those guys out at waitingfornextyear.com. Today, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Indians.
Cleveland Indians.
Is this last series against Boston, was that fool's gold? It was a conversation I had with Andy as the Indians were really racking up the runs the other night. I ruined what should have been a time to be excited by saying, I think maybe this is just who Boston is. We've seen it happen once before, I believe, in a series, Andy. But the Indians took 2 of 3 in Boston. They're opening against the White Sox now, and it's not looking so good. And that's the bummer of this, is that it's feast or famine, as you've said. And I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. What are they, 10 back? It's double digits at this point to the Twins. And I know that we're talking about, the wild card, one of those spots, but I don't know. I don't know. I will say that maybe with Boston being the way Boston is right now, maybe we can get that second wild card spot. But, you're talking about Tampa Bay is 5 games over 500 too, even though they're only bringing in like 10 people to the games, which is
11,
which is atrocious, by the way. But that's baseball in Florida for some reason. Andy, what are you thinking at this point? Because I'm at the point where I'm not buying this team, man. I'm just not.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good night. Yes, here's what I would. I posted this on the Facebook page that we have on Cleveland and Beyond. I felt this way. I'm not as deep and down, but I am down. The Boston series is one thing, but you know what? Why don't we take, how should we do this? Let's take it as for the season right now. On Saturday night, I thought the Indians hit their breaking point. They actually got lower on Sunday, and then Monday was Monday. I thought Monday was a throwaway, but I thought Saturday night was the first time I really saw the Indians really kind of walking around and just playing with no real inspiration, no real feel. There was a moment in that game, which I posted about, where Jose got hit in the leg and he swung and missed, and it was a close call. They ended up calling it a strike. It was right there. You could have gone either way. Francona came out and argued and got thrown out, and then on the next pitch, Ramirez struck out. And he also made an error later on. I think he was in the next day or that day, and he made you could just see the team.
He made errors last night. I think he's had more. Oh boy, he had a total of 25 errors last season, and he's already got 9 this year, I think, is what we're at.
He's struggling. And then to double down, because that's one thing on Saturday night. I thought, and again, I posted, I go, this is just not going well. And again, this goes back to the last 2 podcasts. Okay, Trevor Bauer's our ace. You need to come in and make a big start. Here you go. What happens? Leadoff hitter, bam, home run, 1-0. And that set the tone again. And so here you go again with this team, Trevor Bauer, who I am trying to find ways to say, you got to take this mantle. It is yours. You are no doubt the ace. It's not Shane Bieber. He's too young. It's not Carlos Carrasco. Look at tonight. It's not Jeffrey Rodriguez. It's certainly not, even though we all like him, Plesac. You are the guy, and he's not taking that mantle right now. And that was another bad loss on Sunday. Monday, Oliver Perez doesn't have shoes. Things are going on. Things are getting crazy. That was the weakest 3-0 lead you'll ever see. And then on the pot,
dude, I swear, thank God I did not even. I looked at that and I went, "Oh, let's see how long this lasts."
That was bad. It was the weakest 3-0 lead.
I felt so vindicated.
But the last 2 games were very good for the Tribe. And look, the Tribe on Tuesday was really, I'll be honest with you, that was dead man walking. And Perez and Allen hit home runs, and then Luplow, who's been playing much better, hit a great double to really get spark. It carried over into yesterday. They scored a lot of runs. I think another big thing that, we all knew it, but it's always hard when you're not in the dugout. But Jose taking the day off on Monday was that needed? And finally, he's playing a little bit better. He's having better swings.
Yeah.
I would actually advise to probably sit him down one more time if he gets a little bit more funky.
Might as well. I think his batting average over last month was like 270 or something like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting there.
He's
These
getting
errors
there,
are driving me nuts.
but his errors are bad. And so, like, look, the Boston thing was great, and the Indians, look, it was great because it's Boston, it's in Boston's in Fenway, and I do enjoy those things. Because I live in this area of the country, and I can't stand the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah. The Blues
to beat
won last
them-
night too.
Yeah, it was a good night. It was a good night. But it was a great night. I can't stand Boston. A lovely city, lovely people. No, a lot of Bostonians
So
can't.
glad my
stand.
wife doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Clearly. But I cannot stand. It's just the one city Pittsburgh and Boston are my two. But anyways, those two wins were needed, and they were great wins. But to what Jared's alluding to, and I feel the same way, there's a lot going on here that are still ways to go. They're down right now 4-2. It's a typical Carrasco start. He's either great or he doesn't have it. Tonight he just doesn't have it. He's struggling right now. Even if they win and they come back and win, which maybe they can, it's the White Sox, Bauer's start tomorrow is huge.
Yeah.
He needs to show up and pitch well. It is time for him to really have a great start. He hasn't pitched well since that start in Oakland, and he needs to come through. Jared is a huge start for him. Even if the Indians come back and win, tomorrow night means a lot to this team.
Well,
he needs to come back. He needs to pitch well. He needs to lead this team. He has got to take the mantle. If he's going to do all these videos, if he's going to become this guy, which is great, and I actually think it's a good thing, you need to perform to your level that you're putting yourself out there. It is time for Trevor Bauer to make a step. It is time for Trevor Bauer to be the ace that he is and make a good start.
You've said it all. I really worked hard to find some silver lining with my opinions about Trevor Bauer over the past year or two. I've tried to find, I don't know if silver lining is not even the right term for that, but I've really tried to give him as many chances as I could, right?
Yes, you have.
After that SI article, I was telling you at the beginning of the year, I wish that they would have traded him and kept Kluber, right? I mean, that was where I was at before I read the SI article, before that stuff. At the same time, man, I'm just, my patience is running thin with Trevor, and that. And it's like, oh, and then he'll come on social media and be like, oh, I got embarrassed, or I gave up this. I remember I once gave up this hit to this person, blah, blah, blah. But here's a video of me doing something else, and let's all just have fun and act like, no, Trevor, no, you don't get to just change. Like, you're flipping the script here. You act so tough and like a hard ass, and you want to fight people on Twitter. And well, no, I just want to defend myself when I feel I'm getting bullied. Okay, fine. Call whatever the hell you want. Call whatever the hell you want. But my point is, like, don't try to soften the fact that you're not performing on the mound via your videos on social media.
That's right. And and by the way, I'm fine with all the social media videos.
Yes. No.
I'm fine.
We want him to have that success.
Right.
That's great.
By the way, I'm fine with all the bullying stuff. It's all fine. Fine.
I'm not.
Talk
okay
about
with
it.
all that,
but talk about it. It's fine. But Trevor, to take the next step here, you need to pitch well tomorrow night. And it is against a winnable opponent. We're not talking about the Yankees.
No, we're talking about a rebuilding team.
Yes, that can hit, but you need to step in there. He has had the last two starts, the Orioles and the Rays, was not good. He needs to pitch well. In his last start, he had a press conference where he mentioned he thought he had one bad inning. I don't know what that means because he gave up 4 runs in 3 different innings.
You were talking about this already.
I got to be honest with you. That's a strange comment to me, but fine. Whatever that inning is, I don't even know what that means. I mean, how can you say there's one bad inning when you give up 3 in 3 different innings? You give up 4 runs. I mean, that doesn't make sense. But Bauer needs to step up here. It is time, and he's got the confidence and he's got the swagger. Fine, let's make a big start. And you know what? I think he can. But I'll be honest with you. If I see the same stuff that I've been seeing for Bauer in these last 2, I'm starting to doubt it. So I am on the edge with him. I really want him to see him play well on Thursday. It's a big start for him, in my opinion.
It's even beyond him at this point. This is a big game for this team because here we are again in a position where we just come off of taking the series in Boston, and now we're down here in Game 1 in Chicago against the White Sox. And, likely, and I'm going to go ahead and say likely, odds are we won't win this game, right? I could be wrong. We've seen a comeback recently. It could happen, but we'll likely lose this game. We lose this game, the only way to win this series is if Trevor has a good start tomorrow. And I really think that if they don't win this series in Chicago, that really might be it. That really might be it. And I get it. We're talking about only going into the beginning of June, but you're telling me that the Twins that are already up by 10 games in this division that are going to play the same garbage teams that the Indians are going to win or play against throughout the rest of this season, that we're going to make up that ground? You're going to tell me that the Twins are going to come back to earth that much? I don't know how that's going to happen. And on top of that, even if they do come back to earth, I don't know that the Indians are talented enough to take advantage of it.
Here's what I will say to what you're alluding to. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're good.
No, here's the one thing I would say that you're alluding to, and I don't agree with it, but I know where you're going with it, and it's not crazy. After this series, it's at home, yes, but it's the Twins and it's the Yankees. Those are tough series.
You know what? And I should have talked about that as well. You're right. I should have rolled those into it. But at the same time, I feel like this series is an opportunity you can't just squander. You can't not win the series against the Chi Sox. You can't.
By the way, that's why I'm saying I don't agree with you, but I understand your argument because, and I'll tell you why. The Indians don't play the Chi Sox again until September, so you better start winning. They're only 4-4 against them, which is fine. It's not under 500, but you got to start winning some of these games. And again, to Jared's point, the Indians at some point need to start winning games, and so hopefully this is the series. We'll have to see. Again, I alluded to all the points. Going back to the Red Sox as 2 wins, cannot overemphasize, and it's so Captain Obvious, but I'm gonna say it again, how big that game was on Tuesday night. That was the game of the year win-wise for the Indians. Jared, if they didn't win that game, I think this whole thing tumbleweeds out of control.
No.
Because Bieber didn't have it the next night, and that happens to a young pitcher in Fenway, and he's definitely pitching like a sophomore pitcher.
Yeah, that air was thick in Fenway.
Yeah,
the ball was just sitting on it. I mean, it was
jet streaming out.
And if it wasn't gone, there were what, 4 off the monster.
Yeah. It's just one of those things with this team that they need. I don't think it's do or die, but with what's ahead, I do think these games are important. I think it's fair to say these games are important, and I think tomorrow night's start is huge. Now, I did a couple things here breaking down some stuff that, we're a third of the way through. So I want to take a deeper look here at the Indians. So set the table and get more into what we're talking about here.
Yep.
So, getting into the numbers real quick for people who don't know, Cleveland ranks 24th in runs as of today, and today's May 30th on a Thursday. They have scored 224 runs. Now, what does that mean? The Twins have scored 324, so they're exactly 100 runs more scoring better. That's not good. They're 26th in batting. They're 25th in home runs. Look, the hitting is not just for the eyeballs. It's in the numbers. All those numbers equate to what we're seeing, so it's not fool's gold. Pitching has not been. Now, this is where they are actually pitching the top third. They're 8th in ERA. They're 7th in earned runs. They're 6th in Ks.
And that includes with experimenting with the rotation because they have to, and with the bullpen.
That's right. So what this really equates to in analytics ways, the bats have been far worse, and the pitching has been pretty good, but not great. So that's why you're 500. I mean, honestly, that's why you're 500. Because your pitching's there, but it's not great. And boy, the Indians have played. They needed to be great. They weren't. That's why you're 500. And again, the hitting was so far down. Now, themes for this year that we've talked about that I want to bring up again. We talked about this, and so I'm going to, and I brought it up myself. After in the 16, with all the trades going into winter, I mentioned at one point, I go, hey, it felt like the Indians were kind of transitioning into a rebuild as they're going for a pennant. It's reality. And Francona kind of mentioned as much on Monday that, hey, we're kind of going through a big transition here, period, Jared. So I think after the ALDS game against Houston, I think that is still continued, and that's been a theme, and that's going to be the theme all year. Yeah. I think the other two themes, though, are just as important. I think the Paul Dolan comments, I'm sorry, I think those have played a major role sometimes in how this team's mentality's been. I know people might argue differently. I'm sorry. I think when you
I can tell you
that,
this, it hasn't helped with the fans getting through a season like this.
It hasn't.
It didn't set the tone for Cleveland Indians fans.
No.
In a positive way.
No, and again, that wasn't one article or two articles. It was 3 different articles.
Yeah, and a television, and appearances on TV as well.
Correct. So it was not misread or anything like that. And Paul Dolan's not a bad guy, but he had a bad week of PR, and I think has set a weird vibe, and it's not been good, and it's been hard. I'll be honest with you, Jared. When I'm going on social media and I'm seeing other people talk, it gets brought up still. That's how strange it was. And then 3 is the injuries, whether it was Lindor in the winter, Kipnis obviously too, which kind of lingered through the spring. Kluber, Clevenger, obviously, Naquin recently, and then Zimmer, who's still rehabbing. The injuries have played a major, major role in this team. You can't use that as an excuse because the Yankees have been hit by injuries, and actually I think they've been hit worse than the Yankees, but they have so much talent that they're doing what they're doing. Those have been the themes. Usually with the Indians, I found in past years, I don't know how you feel, it seems like there's 1 or 2 themes. I think all 3, and they're not positive, have all played a big role. Am I mistaken? I just feel like this has been all these factors have really played into this team being 500. And by the way, they're not under 500. I think they're kind of lucky not to be.
Somehow. I mean, they, like I said, I think in the last episode, is that their heads they're treading water. The water, the water's
really
up to their neck at this point, and they're really hanging on.
They are.
Andy, I mean, how do you? I know that we're talking about slow. We're looking at some of the improvements. Looking at some of the improvements, we're looking at some of the injuries, and let's talk about this then. If we're talking about some of the good things that we can put into this without me completely ripping off your positives you got listed here in front of me.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I'm thinking of a few already, and that includes, and maybe these are in here. We're going to come to a point when these guys get healthy, we're going to actually have a problem with figuring out where to put certain players.
Yeah,
that's a good problem to have for this team.
Yes.
If when we eventually get Zimmer back with Naquin, that's going to help out an outfield that at this point, I think I'm with you. And I had high hopes for him. Leonis Martin is just not doing the job. We know that they're going to stick it out with Bowers because they kind of have to. They force their hand with that one. But when you've got Zimmer and when you've got Naquin coming back, that's a good thing. Whether Kluber makes it back by the end of the season, let's just go ahead and count him out. But Clevenger back in that rotation, I think is going to be huge. And I think I made this point last week as well, that having him in that rotation and him back, there with Trevor Bauer is going to help Trevor, which I feel like that was a part of why Trevor's, throwing as poorly as he has been lately. There are certain things that are going to keep me strung along at least through the, to the All-Star break. Even if they continue on this 500-ish baseball. And that's being as negative as I am on this team, I'll still get strung along when some of these things when these wheels start to turn. Because, for all intents and purposes, the batting average, even, we can talk about that. It's getting better. But there's gonna be certain places where it's not going to get better. It will not get better at catcher. This is Pilecki's worst season, I believe, batting wise in his 5 seasons.
Well,
he's coming on. I mean, three seasons ago, he's about 100 points below where he was.
Well, Pilecki is that. I'm not surprised about Pilecki at all.
Right, not surprised. No,
and he's a backup catcher. We have 2 backup catchers, and one of them has to start.
What would have happened if we didn't get rid of Yan Gomes this year? Answer me that, where this team would be.
Okay,
do you think that would equate to a couple more wins at least at this point?
Let's say this. Yes, by the way, yes. Now, to Jared's point, I'm going to go backwards and go forward. I made this one of the positives. They have a lot of young pitchers. Plesac looks good. McKenzie hasn't even come up yet, and he's their top pitching prospect. Jeffrey Rodriguez can pitch. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
And there's been some rumors he's going to go back in the bullpen.
Yeah.
So the Indians have good young arms. I mean, there is no
Andy,
question.
This
I mean, they
speaks to what you said before the season started, that this team is better set up for next season than they are for this season.
No, they really. I mean, this team is stacked. Mercado's good. I don't know if he's great, but he's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Hand's been unreal. We're going to get to him in a second. I think he is one of the best relievers in the game. Santana's really hot. Really played above his weight. I'm happy for Santana. Not only has he come back, he's been playing really well.
He almost hit for the cycle yesterday if you didn't walk twice.
And he hit another single tonight for 2 RBI. So, I mean, he's playing really well. And Lindor, not only has he come back, I think his numbers don't show it because I think the rest of the team's kind of brought his numbers down. Lindor's playing really well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really, really playing strong. So I think those are the things. Look, we got to touch on the negatives because they're 500.
I think we've been touching on the negatives.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to touch on him one more time.
Yeah.
The Jose thing's been beaten to death. The other guy, too, needs to be talked about is Kipnis. Kipnis is an expensive player, and he's not playing well. I'm sorry. And I like Kipnis a lot, and he's easy to root for, but he's got to start playing better. He's got to play better second base. And, boy, the Mike Freeman experiment, boy, he's shaky. I don't know. The Indians really, 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 the infield itself, you can go in one part because they have veterans in every spot. So, Kipnis is a vet, Jose's a vet, and then you got Lindor and you got Santana. So their infield actually, paper-wise, is pretty good. But, boy, they're middle infielders. We've seen them all this year, and Freeman's the latest. Jared, they don't have any middle utility infielders right now. I mean, they just don't have anybody coming off the bench. So they have really wasted that talent. And seeing Giovanni Urshela play really well for the Yankees is frustrating. Missing, Rodriguez did not play well last year, but Martinez, it'd been great to have him back. But look, all that to be said, they don't have a middle infielder. We talked about Kipnis, all the injuries we've hit about. I've hammered Bauer. Look, I do think Bauer has the stuff, and I think he has a mentality. I really want to see tomorrow night, though, and then we'll get back to that. The biggest, and you hit Jake Bowers. Okay, Jake Bowers quickly. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get Jake Bowers. And again, nice guy, whatever. The Indians now just go down 5-2 because that White Sox is really going to annoy me if he's good. Garcia, he is a little. He's one of those players that gets under your skin when he's playing for the opposite team. But anyways, Jake Bowers, I don't understand. I just don't get it. And you kind of touched upon it too. I just don't understand. He's a good guy. You're so glad he's healthy and he's playing well. He's not playing well, I'm sorry, but that he's back. But Leonys Martin, I've seen not only hitting, I think his fielding's not good. No. I'm sorry. Overthrowing cutoff men, making mistakes constantly. He has an error a week that's like alarming. I just think Leonys Martin is not good. I'm not as down on him as Jake in the catcher situation, but Leonys Martin, I don't get it. All of this coincides, though, to the big problem, which we kind of started hearing in the late winter and early spring, and no one saw this coming, but it's here. The Twins are really fucking good, and it's just been. And Jared, they're not only just good; they've at times had the best record in baseball, and I think that has played a huge thing in this. This was not expected. Hey, let's be all fair here in Love and War. If the Twins only have a 4-game lead, I don't know if we're freaking out. But a 9.5-game lead, the problem. It's a problem. And it's Memorial Day now, so you can do returns. Those are the things I think, looking forward now and now to the present and going into the future outside of the games themselves, we brought up, but now it's time to talk about it. The trade rumors are going to start really ramping up. No matter if the Tribe wins 7 out of 10 or whatever, the trade rumors are going to be brought up because they have a plethora of pitching.
Yep.
Now, there's 2 guys in particular. You could probably throw in Kluber too, but Kluber's hurt, so I don't think you can throw in Kluber right now. What do you do with Brad Hand? Because he is playing so well, Jared, and as a left-handed reliever with his stuff, he's going to command a big return. And what do you do with Trevor Bauer? Because both those guys, I think, can get a haul back in prospects.
Who's going to fill that spot? Whitgren?
No. I'm not saying you're filling it with someone who's going to be great. What I'm saying is, do you do that because you're really that light in bats?
Well, I guess my point is, when I say, do you fill it with Whitgren, is that going to be, not, it won't, obviously it won't be as good, but can can wherever that vacuum is going to need filled,
No, I know.
can that hole withstand? And is it worth doing that for the bats? Oh,
I don't know.
Boy, when
It's
you're
a
this,
tough-
I mean, it depends on how far back you are. I don't know.
Brad
I don't know
Hand's a
what
toughie because he's under contract. He's going to be here for 2 more. I think it's 2 or 3 more years. But you're not going to resign Hand after 2 more years. He's going to be too expensive.
Right.
So it's a really good chance to get a shot in the arm or stuff you need. It's been. I know I heard Manning talk about in an interview with K&R. Jeffrey Rodriguez is being discussed. Will he go back into bullpen? Maybe Jeffrey's your closer. I don't know. I mean, you might have options there. The more what we know right now, because with Plesac doing what he's doing, you could maybe shift someone into the closer role or Whitgren. But all that to be said, Brad Hand has pitched so well. I know what Jared's saying, Boy, if you trade Brad Hand, you're costing yourself a couple wins, maybe more.
I think you can get away with trading Bauer.
You definitely can,
and not lose those wins.
No, I'm with you.
I think Bauer, you can.
And I'll tell you, it's not even so much for what he's doing on the field. It's just that now that I've seen the stable of horses that you got as a pitching staff,
yeah,
Bauer's interesting now to trade because look, Bieber, he's having your typical sophomore year, but he's pretty good. Clevenger's pretty good.
Not worried about either of those two.
No, I'm worried about either of those two. Right. I think Jeffrey Rodriguez is going to be good. I think Plesac, 1 start, but okay, he looks pretty good. And you got Carrasco. Jared's not bad. And, and Adam Pletko.
And maybe Salazar someday.
Oh,
I couldn't help myself.
I'm not even wasting my fucking breath on Danny Salazar today. Let's go back to things I can control. He's pitching in Arizona. I read that report. I'm like, Danny Salazar is pitching in Arizona. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Hasn't been pitching in Arizona. He hasn't pitched in a game in 2 years. I mean, good Lord. All right, look.
Cactus League. He's permanently in the Cactus League.
I'm sure he's got residency in Arizona at this point. So, I mean, look. Danny Salazar. That is, if he is on this roster next year.
I can't help myself.
He'll be one guy I'm like, Danny Salazar, haven't we seen enough? I mean, God, that guy, I think there's $4 or $5 million. Take it and run. I mean, Lordy have mercy. I think that's, I mean, God, can you imagine we get okay, let's not do that. All right. So the other big thing, which I do not think they should do, is the Lindor discussion I heard on a couple of radio stations and whatever else. I don't think you can trade Lindor at all.
No,
I don't think he's tradable.
No, I don't think that just because he's not going to get signed at the end of the contract does not mean you just trade him now.
And by the way, that is
DUM dumb. You ride that horse until you can't ride it no more. There's no way you get rid of him.
Lindor is one of the top 10 players in the game, not just in the Indians, in the game. You cannot trade Lindor. I'm with you. I was going to mention you cannot trade him this year. You can't. You will wave a white flag. You got to hold on to him, and you got to do what you got to do to see if you can sign him back, which I know is probably impossible. But hey, you got to at least try, and hopefully the Indians will. Boy, it looks like someone there, I think it's Freeman, just missed a home run. But going back to what we were, so Lindor, no, I do think Bauer and Hand, one of those two, I would trade, maybe both, because I think you're at a point where looking at what I've seen and seeing the position players and seeing what I've seen out there, Jared, and not knowing what Bradley, by the way, Bradley Zimmer is another thing. We don't know what he is. He's still rehabbing. We hope he plays like he was 2 years ago, but we don't know. With all those question marks, Jared, I do think you need to pull a trigger on one of those two guys and get something back, whether it's a couple or 2 or 3 great prospects or a everyday player and a great whatever. You've got to really look at your options because they have a stable pitching. And it's now time to use that to get something back with a bat. I think you have to trade one.
Yeah, I'm with you on trading one of them. Man, I know I'm biased again. I think it needs to be Trevor. I should note this too. First of all, I didn't intro the show correctly. I jumped right on the Indians because I'm so it hit me all of a sudden. I'm amped up on them. Obviously, we're not talking Tribe the entire show. We're going to talk about the Browns and the Cavs, and I think we left something off about the Cavs that we probably should talk about too, and the Warriors coming up. But it's is it? Okay, I might have missed something. I apologize. I was dealing with tornado warnings today and craziness, and my kids were sheltering in place at school. Like, it was just crazy. But I should mention that Astros shortstop Carlos Correa as well is another strange story out of baseball right now. Yeah. Just to bring that up, apparently fractured a rib during a massage. Now, did the table collapse? I don't know. Something happened. But when I heard, when Tom Hamilton talked about it yesterday, I thought, like, I was so relaxed, and then all of a sudden I got a broken rib.
Not good.
Getting a massage. Very strange incident there for a team that really needs that guy in their lineup. So that's that with them, and I guess that wraps that up. So,
well, I got a couple more things, but here's the thing. I would trade Bauer as well. I will say Brad Hand is tempting, because I think you can get a big haul for him. And it's going to cost you games, because I think he's a great reliever. And he's a great closer. I'm just mentioning it, so I think you have to mention it again. I do think, with all that has been done and the hole that has been dug here, I think the Indians are playing for a wild card spot. I think it's going to take a major twofold, a collapse, not a huge one, but a little bit of a collapse in an Indians like on fire kind of performance. Now, seeing what I just saw, Jordan Luplow just hit a home run. If Luplow can keep doing that, if you get a couple more spark from a couple more players,
Luplow's been a bright spot. We know that.
By the way, I want to throw him a big ring of hope. Seeing what I'm seeing from him, that has worked out. Jared, I'll be honest, Jordan Luplow has shocked me. Since he went down the minors and he's come back, totally different player.
Yep.
Totally different player. So I think that's where the Indians are at. I do think, though, I want to repeat, you can't trade Lindor this year. It's off the table. But I do think you need to trade either Hand or Bauer, and I would lean towards Bauer. It does not make sense to me to keep both or all these pitchers. Not with what your lineup is. You got to make a move. You have the prospects. I mean, if you want to trade a prospect for a prospect bat, fine. But Jared, you got to do something here. You got too much pitching. You got to make a trade here.
Yep.
And it makes way too much sense. All right, final thought from you. Do you think the Indians have any chance of winning division? I gave you my answer. What is yours? Any chance of winning division? Any chance of making the wild card?
50-50.
Okay.
You can't look at it any other way. I really think there are just other teams that are playing better baseball. So,
all right, last thought. I think Francona is still the right guy in charge, and I do think Antonetti, and I think Chernoff. No, I just want to mention this. I know that
you have to mention it because there's so many damn idiots out there that I have seen that want to throw all of this on Tito. Like, give me a break.
He's one of the best managers
Please take your
game.
Uneducated ass somewhere else. Do not be around me and talk Tribe because I won't even respond to you. If you try to tell me that it's Tito, that Tito needs to go. If you even say, well, I think maybe it's time to make a change, go. I don't know. I don't know who you are. We will not speak. Period.
Wow. I think we've now hammered the Tribe in all different ways by the way, Jason Kipnis with a hit. For about a third of the show, that's 30 minutes. Let's now transition to the Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
I was going to lead off at one point today about Gerald McCoy and the latest rumors, but then Kitchens' comments really caught fire, so I think we need to lead off there.
Yeah.
Kitchens finally showed some frustration in some comments, and I think it finally got. I don't think it was huge frustration, but basically you can read through the comments. I didn't hear them, but you can read them and you can get the picture. I just want to see him, Kitchens said when asked what he wants to see out of Beckham out of next week's mandatory minicamp. This is, by the way, out of Cleveland.com. And what did Beckham miss while away in the past 3 weeks? Someone asked. Kitchens answered, a lot. The offense. So I will ask, because I've been on this, and I think you have too, where I didn't think it was, I still don't think it's a big deal. I will say, when you read comments like that, they catch a person's eye, and that caught my eye today. I mean, you can tell Freddie is getting frustrated with Odell.
Two things. Freddie's not going to lie about it. So I appreciate his honesty.
Yep.
And two, what's the head coach of any football team going to say when asked that question in regard to somebody that, I mean, it's of course that's how he feels. So,
well, he's been very political correct. Today, something snapped. And by the way, for a guy who snapped, it was pretty tamed. But he definitely tilted today a little bit.
Hey, you know what? Again, Andy, if he comes and he delivers, I've got nothing to say.
Yeah, I was going to answer with this. And as I was trying to think of an example, and I found one, and I wanted to see if you agree.
Yeah.
For people who remember, Dennis Rodman was a fantastic basketball player. Okay? Really
He was one of my
player.
favorites.
Really, really talented player.
And I hated the Bulls.
I hated the Bulls.
And I loved watching him play.
The wonderful player. Dennis Rodman wouldn't show up for any of these things for the Bulls. It was a big story. Rodman's not in camp. Where is Rodman? Rodman would go missing. And then when the bell rang and it was time for big moments, there's Dennis Rodman making big plays and doing big things. That's why he's in the basketball Hall of Fame.
Man, he was one of the most exciting players to ever play the game.
Right.
So much fun.
So much fun. Now, Odell is not like that coming over to the Bulls because Rodman won 2 rings with the Pistons and then came over to the Bulls and actually took a stint with the Spurs, but let's not do Rodman today. Odell, now that said, that is the comparison I'll make here. People need to remember he is this unique character. He is very talented. He is going to do what he's going to do, which he's proven already. And what he has to understand, which I think this is the only thing I would say to Odell, when you come to Berea next week, which he is, which I think he will, which we don't know for sure, but I think he will, I would make it a point to talk to Freddie at some point one-on-one and explain what your thoughts were. I will say, Jared, I think that is important now. Because when you get this kind of frustration, I'm just guessing, I don't know, it kind of sounds like Kitchens and Odell have been talking a whole lot this past week. Because every time these kind of questions get brought up, Kitchens is like, I'm communicating with him, and I'm talking with him. I just want to see him a lot, the offense. I mean, when you hear those kind of answers, he's not saying he hasn't talked to him, but kind of get that vibe. I'm reading the tea leaves, and I'm just guessing, but that's what I kind of hear. There's a communication breakdown.
Listen, I mean, also over time, this anxiousness, I mean, it's just going to get wound tighter and tighter until he gets on the field. Well, I think that will change things.
It will. It's going to make these next 5 days or 3 days or 4 days hell, because that story is going to get picked up, as it should. Those were interesting comments today from Freddie. So those comments are going to run for a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays going into Tuesday. I think when Tuesday is when the whole thing kicks off on the 4th. It'll be interesting to see how this all kind of gears. But for the first time, again, Freddie didn't yell, he didn't scream, he didn't jump up and down and get mad, but he showed some frustration today when answering this question.
Look at the calendar. Like you said, June fucking 4th.
Yeah, who cares?
Calm the fuck down.
Yes.
When the hell does preseason even start?
Yeah, and I'll tell people
we're good. Relax.
Yeah, relax. The only thing that stinks is in this short period of time, this story's going to carry. And it will.
We know that. We know that. Between that and Baker went hard after Colin.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a second. So I think those are two separate things. But let's keep on this for a second. So I do want to talk about that. I brought that up in the rundown too. But going back to Beckham, and this is how I'll leave it. I do think he needs to communicate with Freddie once he gets around or whatever, and not on the phone and not through text messaging or email. I would actually suggest to him, you should probably sit down with Coach and really talk about what your mindset is and all that. Because I think he's basically feeling a little bit of frustration here. I think that will go a long way. There are many athletes, I won't bring up all the names in the past, but Odell's definitely in that class now. It all matters, wins and losses on Sundays in September through December. So, at the end of the day, I do think these stories will pass. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but, I'll say it again. It's interesting. This is the first time we kind of got some, a little bit of frustration, a little bit of angst from Kitchens.
Hey, you know what? I'm not worried about Odell Beckham Jr.'s commitment to this team. All you had to do is look at his car, and there, you'll realize he's all
playing for championships. I mean, I will say this: that to Jared's point, what I got out of that car is that's a Rolls Royce. Holy cow, he is in
a fucking Cleveland Browns themed Rolls Royce.
He really is. I have high hopes. That's why at the end of the day, that's how I was going to end it. I think Beckham will be fine, and I think he'll play well.
It's insane.
I hope he proves me right, and I think he will.
With like a little starting lineup character that comes up as the hood ornament.
You know, funny enough,
it's him.
You know what,
so
Jared?
awesome.
Funny enough, I've never had a car like that, so I couldn't even imagine what it is. Like, do you push a button? Do you like hand crank?
Listen, we had a guy back in Struthers, Ohio, that's been driving around an '85 Chevy Blazer painted orange and brown, and his house was brown with orange trim around the windows. I shit you not, Andy. That's all I've ever seen.
I wouldn't even know. Again, do you hand crank that? Do you push a couple buttons? I mean, that's a Batmobile type thing. It is a really cool thing.
Cool.
The other big thing is Gerald McCoy. From what I'm reading and from what I'm hearing, I don't know how much you want to break down Kitchens' comments. The big thing here is he met with the Ravens. He's with the Panthers today. From what you're hearing, it sounds like it's either Browns or Ravens at this point. And, who knows what's going to come down to outside the old-fashioned money factor. If the Ravens putting more money or the Browns putting more money, maybe that's what it comes down to here. I'm not sure. Right. But, it'll be interesting to see what McCoy does. It does sound like the Browns are in the final rung here no matter what. Jared, I honestly, from what I'm reading, from what I'm seeing, I don't have a vibe on this at all. And by the way, I think it's hard to read into that right now. But if I had to guess, just looking at here what I'm saying, I think it's going to come down to the decision of McCoy. Is it about the money? Or is it about maybe a championship and doing something special? And I don't know. And by the way, maybe he thinks...
Well, and or more playing time too. I mean, he would get more playing time.
I would
in
figure
Baltimore,
so, and I think that's. And I was going to mention that too. And he's going to get
more.
probably paid a little more because of that. So, I mean, again, I'm just guessing. I really don't know, but all those kind of factors come into this, where it's like it's interesting to see what really comes down to this. Because Jared, from reading all these comments, and I heard people saying, "Oh, he's definitely coming to Cleveland." I don't feel that way yet. I still think he's mulling this over. I would not be surprised if another team comes in the bidding too. And again, I mentioned this originally, and I still feel this way. If I'm McCoy, I don't rush. I hold out forever because
you called that, and I think that's going to be the case. I was wrong. I thought he would have been signed before the weekend. I think after he came and visited, I thought he would have made the decision. Now that he hasn't, in all honesty, Andy, I've moved on from caring. Does that I understand what he would bring to the team if he came here,
though.
but it's not a bust
no,
if he
you're
doesn't
right.
come
And by
here.
the way,
by
that's
any
a really
means.
good point.
So
that's
I
a
mean,
really good point.
it goes back to if you're not wearing orange and brown, you don't matter. That's how I look at this right now.
It's a big addition, but to Jared's point, if he does not sign, it's not a big subtraction, or it's not a big miss, or it's not a big boom or bust. So I agree, Jared. I don't.
Very strange.
Very strange. And to Jared's point, I'm not anxious or nervous or checking my McCoy updates. I guess that's true. I'm not really checking that either. So I think that's the latest on McCoy. The only thing I feel like I'm right here. I don't think McCoy makes a decision quick. I think this is going to play out for a little bit because, and this is where I don't blame McCoy. This is probably his last big contract, and you need to make sure you get paid properly. So he's going to hold out to see if anybody else can really overwhelm him, and he thinks he can win a Super Bowl with X team, whoever that is. So I think McCoy will hold out a little longer. I don't think this again, next week is when you have mandatory, camps. Like, why would you show up to something like that if you don't want to? Wait it out. And again, like, what I would tell him is I would sign by July so you can plan your life. And, I'd say by July 4th. But, and again, even for McCoy, if he didn't want to, I don't think it's necessary to sign by the 4th. You can wait longer. So I really don't see a rush here for McCoy right now. We'll have to see what happens. But again, from everything I'm reading and seeing, the Browns are definitely in it. The Ravens seem to be in this horse race. We'll have to see if another team appears. He visited the Panthers today. Time will tell. But that's, from everything I'm reading from Kitchens and from Dorsey, it sounds like everything went well. It sounds like everything went normal. But again, nothing like earth-shattering or, grabbing headlines. Just normal comments you'd see for some free agent coming into Cleveland and talking to him. So I think that's where you're at. I think it's going to be interesting. I will say, though, if they get McCoy, wow. That is a
If they get McCoy now after he visited Baltimore, that's a nice rub your face in dirt.
Nice rub
for me.
dirt in your face moment for sure. The last thing about the Browns, I don't have much else. I mean, I'm not, again, there's all these different things you want to break down. Last week the hot receiver was Callaway. This week it's Higgins. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think these are kind of things that you do during these kind of time periods. So not that I'm saying it's a bad thing. It's nice to see Higgins make a good week of catching balls in practice, and last week was Callaway. But again, what do you want to break that down? I don't know.
Spread the love. I want the same thing I saw last year. I want 8 different sets of hands coming down with the ball.
I was going to just say, I think it's not ironic that they chose 1 week. Callaway should be it, and next week it's Higgins. I think that was a perfect PR play if I ever saw one. Just saying, and I thought it was really nicely played. The other story, though, that I found fascinating that I posted on our Facebook page was the Sheely Giuseppe story. I think everybody should read it. It's a fascinating.
Did we both accidentally share that, or did you? Or did I don't remember if I shared it too or not. So I have to go back and check because I think we both might have shared it.
Read either post. It's a really good story. It's interesting. It's interesting too how he pulled it off. He kind of fooled the Browns. Basically, and I did not read the article. But as soon as I heard the story, I referenced it in my brain, and they put in the article, Willie Mays Hayes just shows up, ready to come play, and the next thing he knows, he kind of scouts what he needs to.
Jumps out of bed and runs the 40 in his pajamas.
Like Willie Mays Hayes runs one of his best all-time 40s at 4.38, and that's how he got there. And by the way, he's still on the team, so it's an interesting story. I think everybody should read it. It would be a hell of a story if he makes a team out of all this. But it is interesting. You should definitely read it. Sheely Giuseppe, and again, a guy who basically didn't play much college ball, didn't get accepted into a tryouts for the CFL or the Arena League, and somehow did his homework basically on his last dimes and nickels, and somehow got into the Browns facility, got into some workout, fooled the Browns enough where he got into the proper spots, did his 40 run, and here we are. It's amazing.
It's absolutely it's movie worthy
Very
if it
cool.
works out down the road.
It's a cool.
It really is. It's straight out of the movies.
It's a cool story. So definitely.
It's a combination of Mark Wahlberg's movie with the Eagles. What's his face that were trying out, and Willie Mays Hayes. That's the combo I'm hearing here.
So to the last point, the Browns, I made a mistake. I had a brain fart. Okay, so the Cowherd Baker thing. So here's my point on this. I'm actually probably on the opposite view as many. The one thing I understand why Baker's doing what he's doing is because Colin Cowherd hasn't left it alone either. And I think Baker Mayfield feels that he needs to say something and come out. I'm going to actually defend Baker on some of these things because Colin Cowherd's been really, really hard on Baker and really hard on the Browns.
Yeah.
And honestly, it has been not just one or two. It's been a mountain of comments. I think Baker standing up, saying things, making T-shirts, I don't think it's crazy. I get it because he is trying to build something here, and I'm sure he feels like, why is, for some reason, for whatever reason, Colin's really had it out for the Browns and for Baker this year. Jared, I actually don't think it's petty. I actually don't think it's crazy. I get it because Colin's been so, oh my God, negative against him. I get it.
Well,
I actually get it.
What I can say is that Baker's latest statement revolved around the fact that Colin Cowherd is misusing his platform by misrepresenting and flat out lying in regard to certain aspects of things that he said about Baker, about Odell, about the Browns. And I think that what he's actually doing also, and even if you don't necessarily agree with what, because at the end of the day, Colin Cowherd's got a microphone. Right. He could say whatever he wants, right? I call him National Mouth. That's who he is. He's National Mouth. He's got that platform. But I also think that this speaks to the bigger, and this is a whole other philosophical frickin' conversation. The bigger argument over when you have the power of that microphone and using it responsibly in regard to media in general, and not being hyperbolic and not being, I get where Baker's coming from.
I feel like
I get where he's coming from. Even if you don't agree with, even if you think Colin can say whatever the hell he wants. He's getting paid to do those things. You're right. He can. That doesn't not make him an asshole.
Or it doesn't make him a target.
Day. Sorry, it doesn't.
I actually would compare it to something like a political rant where someone's a Republican, someone's a Democrat. And they're going at, and he just, again.
And that's why I said to the bigger picture.
But I don't think it's crazy. I think, and by the way, Colin Cowherd has every right to do it. He's got every right to keep going down that road. But I'll be
sure
if you want. I'll be honest with you.
If it sells ads,
in my scope of learning about life and watching sports and listening to sports, Jared, Colin's on a unique platform, meaning he has done something and taken a topic and really made it his platform to the point where it's like, holy cow! Every week he says something and he's just not tapping it; he's hammering on the head. I don't blame Baker. I don't think it's petty. I don't think it's ridiculous because I've not seen this kind of I've not seen this kind of stuff ever. I think he's taken it to a new level. I just do.
Collins, and don't doubt this for 1 minute. If the Browns steamrolled the AFC North, steamrolled through the AFC Championship, and steamrolled in through to grab their first Lombardi Trophy, God bless. Imagine that. Could you close your eyes and imagine it for a second? If they do all of that, at the end of the day, at the end of that road, at the light at the end of that tunnel, Colin Cowherd will be standing there going, "You're welcome for getting all the attention for you guys. You're welcome." And I guarantee he will take pride in the fact that he was wrong, but he will take credit for all of the attention that the Browns got throughout the season.
He's thrusted himself into the storyline. So I know Peter King, who I respect and I enjoy his opinions. I don't think it's petty. I don't think Baker's wrong. I think Colin's actually gone.
Why did Peter say it was petty?
I think it's gone to a new level. Now, if Baker was doing this for Hugh Jackson, I'd be like, "Oh, that's not good. Leave that alone. It's time to go."
Yeah,
but he's not. It's not. It's not even. That's not a comparison either. I'm in this media business too, and so are you. I think Colin has actually gone to some new levels. Where it's weekly, where it's once a week he does it. He opens up the scab and he pours as much salt as possible. And because it gets pickup and because of everything else, Baker feels the right that he needs to say something back. And again, if it's one or two comments or something like that, hey, I'd be saying the opposite. But it's not been that way. Jared, it hasn't been that way since day one with him. So I just don't think it's outlandish. I get it. I do get it. Baker's trying to build something here. He's trying to build a culture. And he doesn't enjoy the fact that Cowherd says these things every week, constantly making headlines. So I get it. I actually get it. I think it makes sense. And
it puts Baker in the position where there is no one in that locker room who can say he hasn't defended that team. He hasn't defended anyone in orange and brown, and they will rally behind him 100%. And for that reason, whether you like it outside as a fan, whether you like it as a different part of the media, a member of the press, whoever you may be, it doesn't matter. If it's a rallying cry, if it's bulletin board material for the locker room and it helps them get whatever they need to do to get it done, I'm 100% for it. Don't forget the power of that bulletin board material. When used correctly, and that is the key, used correctly. If it becomes a distraction from your goals, then we've got a problem.
Well, and by the way, that's going to be the next big thing, and we'll just have to see how that plays out. But for right now, again, similar thing to this whole Beckham thing. It's not the season, so And again, I actually get it. I want to defend Baker because I think people have been way too hard on him, and they're making and hearing comments and being a part of this sports talk, I'm definitely a fan of it. I listen to it a lot. I got to say again, Colin's taken it to a really new level. He has really platformed it hard for almost a year now. And it gets harder and harder and harder. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't blame Baker. I just don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's insane. Yeah. So that's the Browns, and I always say this. So I'll say only probably a couple more times before we hit July. I would advise exit stage left, so you can just allow the Indians and all these other storylines going on with the Cavs and lottery take the spotlight. But the Browns, again, it's funny when I started typing this rundown in, I thought I was going one direction. Then the whole Freddie and Beckham stuff came up. So. The Browns are.
No, go ahead. Wrap that up.
Good.
I apologize.
But anyways, that's the Browns for now. Next week is is mandatory week, and then after that, I think they take a hiatus, but I have to check. But they have 3 days of mandatory practice next week, which I'm sure is going to be heavily covered, and that's where the Browns are at.
So, you were updating on the Indians' score throughout. Game 1 of the finals here, Toronto Raptors, Golden State Warriors. I've had a stream of the score.
They're up 10.
Halftime, Raptors are up 10 right now at the half. Sustainable in the second half. I'm gonna go ahead and say up 10 at halftime. Yeah, that's that ain't gonna cut it.
We'll have to see.
We know how this
God
works
bless
out.
It'd be nice to see him get a win.
Man, it would be huge if they could take game. Man,
we've
that would
all
be big.
learned.
That would be big.
Is the Cavs in that position last year after game 1? The first half means nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Not against the Warriors. No, they could be. Listen, I'll be honest. The Raptors could be up 30 in the first half, and I still think the Warriors would come back and probably win.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
No, I'd say they'd still have a 35 to 40% chance of coming back and winning. And
we'll talk about that. The
really
Warriors end up losing. I think that'd be an interesting storyline. I don't think they have any chance of winning this.
Yeah.
The Cavs,
Cleveland Cavaliers.
The big thing that came to come up in a sad, obviously, story that has been talked about. So it's not like we're breaking news or anything. But Dan Gilbert stroke over Memorial Day weekend on Sunday. You hate to hear that kind of stuff. I've interviewed Dan. I've obviously spent some time with Dan. I hate to hear that kind of stuff. I hope he's okay. Hope he's doing well. Sounds like he's awake, responsive, and resting comfortably, according to PR release, which is good to hear. You hope he can recover. I know people are very torn about Dan. The only thing I'll get on the Dan grandstand is he really does care about the Midwest. He's obviously poured money into Detroit. He's poured a lot of money into Cleveland. And he's really made, now it's called Rocket Mortgage. That
self-made
arena
guy
has now turned into a jewel of the city. And it's really one of the best arenas. When anybody comes to Cleveland and they watch a game, I always get the same response. Wow, this is a great place to watch a game. So Dan deserves a lot of that credit. The casino, all that stuff, I hope.
And they're dumping more money into it,
I just think people sometimes give him a hard time. I hope Dan's doing okay, and I hope he bounced back, buddy, because you really do a lot for the city and do a lot for the Cavs. Now, there was a great article that came out, so I don't want to steal this guy's thunder. Is an insider story that came out. I forget when it came out, but it's on ESPN Insider. I would advise all Cavs and Clevelander fans to read it. He did a nice job of laying out what is going on with the Cavs and what is next. And some of the things that he kind of mentioned here, which I'll bullet point. Bobby Marks, great article. I read it I think it was last week it came out. It's a great read. He really laid out nicely what is ahead. So some of the bullet points to take out of here, 5 expiring contracts, Thompson, Knight, Clarkson, Hidson, and Dellavedova. Those are all tradable pieces. Why? They might take another contract back on to get a draft pick. So those are things to watch. The Cavs did that last year, could do it again. They have all these expiring contracts coming up, which we mentioned. That does not mean good stuff for the salary cap this year. I know you and I have talked about that. They are really hovering on that line again. So next year's the big year when they get space available. There'll be $50 million off the books next year. This year, though, they're still way over. So, not way. I'm sorry. What am I saying? They're close to the line. They're not going to go way over, but they can't take on a lot of money. So in case people are thinking that's actually not the case. It's next year they get all that. And then the bigger thing here is, too, that we've been talking about, they kind of hits upon. They have flexibility in this year's draft. They have future draft picks coming up in their back pocket. They do have to go and at some point give the Hawks back their draft pick. And then the big conversation, which we've all know, is JR. What are they going to do with JR? Where they just outright cut him, take the salary cap hit, or do they try to trade him? And those are the big things. And then it all hovered around Beeline, and then the big elephant in the room: do you keep or trade Kevin Love? And those are really the big things.
I still think you end up keeping Kevin. I didn't realize the money thing. I always forget about taking that into consideration. Which I would say at this point, get ready for probably another strange season. Not a very, another long season this coming year. But you're talking about next, the following year, then we can really start opening things up.
Yeah. And that's, and
if we have another bad season, then we're looking at, we might end up back in the lottery again. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, look, here's the thing. The Cavs are on their way to building what this is. Okay.
Right.
And what I liked about this article, which is what I was kind of alluding to, and you were kind of alluding to, White Sox did a home run, by the way, off of Dan Otero. Why Dan Otero's? All right, I don't have the
never
energy
disappoints.
Today. I don't have the energy today. Tyler Clippard.
I feel like I'm off today. So.
And Dan Otero. Hold on to your hats. That's all I got to say. Anything and everything can happen. All right, so going back to the story, but what I liked, what he's alluding to, which hopefully came off in those bullet points, the Cavs have a lot of options. The only one, which you just mentioned, is the salary cap. They are going to be hovering on that line. So they're not going to sign a big free agent. Okay, fine. But listening to all that different stuff and seeing what is out there, they can make some moves. And Jared, more importantly, going into next year, they are going to be able to really flex out some things. So this next year, you're going to have to make a decision. Do you really want to go Jordan Clarkson long term? Because he's going to be a free agent after this year, right? Right. I don't think you need to. I think Dellavedova's gone. I love Delly, but I don't see him coming back. Thompson, I'd be surprised. Knight, I don't know. Henson, I don't think Henson's coming back. So these are guys who are on the books. Then you go after, did Nwaba do enough to earn a big deal? And a big deal for him, not a big deal in the NBA, but are you going to really pay him, $3 or $4 million a year to play? It's an interesting question. He had some moments last year. You're going to also have some of these other players too, where it's like, did Sexton take the next leap? Did you make all these what's that guy's name? Chimes? Or now I'm naming off players with probably the wrong last name, but you get the picture. All these little guys who we've kind of seen, who we don't really know their name, obviously, but are coming off and doing things. Jared, they're going to probably have a little bit more of that this year. And then again, we should allude to it because it's really the start. Kevin Love. Does he stay or does he go?
I think you hold on to him for at least one more year. And I think you do that because, again, the money issue, not having high expectations. I don't think they're going to put a lot of pressure on him. Other than with expectations of leadership with the young guys. I'm not at the point where I'm going to worry about how many games he's on the court for, I guess. I'm beyond that. I'm looking forward, and I'm looking at they're going to want a marquee name to at least keep people in the seats. Kevin Love is going to be that guy.
I think,
he
will
a fan
thrive
favorite,
in the system,
and for that reason, he'll be there. He'll work well.
He
yes,
will
and
thrive.
yeah. You're right, and he might end up being on the court a lot more this year. But I'm okay if he's not.
Beeline
really
loves
am.
having big forward centers play outside the paint and in these, and that's Kevin's game. So I think he will thrive in that role. What it comes down to is I still like the idea of Beeline obviously a lot. I like that they have this flexibility in plans. And when you read and you really look at it, Jared, as we just mentioned many times, there are still deals to be done. But are they going to sign a big name free agent? Well, no, they don't have the money. They don't have the salary cap room to do so. But I do think I think Thompson decides. I don't think Tristan, even if Tristan comes back this year, I don't think Tristan's come back after that. But Knight, Clarkson, these are two names. Do they have long-term roles on this team? We'll find out. We'll find out because they're both expiring contracts. And especially someone like Jordan Clarkson, I think if he plays the way he did last year, I think you can trade him to a team if the Cavs are in that position again where they're not going to make the playoffs. Hey, you trade him to a team that's actually going to make the playoffs and get something back. The Cavs can do that again. Because Clarkson's going to have some trade value. And then for the whole JR thing,
yeah,
maybe I'm misreading the tea leaves in the free agency world. I don't know if he's got any value. I think they're just going to outright cut him and eat that $3.5 million. I just don't see who's going to take him. Maybe I'm wrong. I keep hearing rumors, but boy, I don't.
What's he going to do? Go
That's
back to the
point.
Knicks?
I think he'll get picked up.
I don't know.
But to make a trade for J.R. Smith?
I told you, I don't know if he wants to play anymore.
We'll have to see. And by the way, for a guy who's very visible and very social media savvy, I have not heard a peep from him.
No. And that could either be a really good thing or a really bad thing.
We'll find out.
You know? It could be a really good thing because he's refocused on certain things with his life. He's with his wife, raising his kiddo, who we know, right. That was a rough time for him. Maybe that's it, or maybe he's going through a rough patch. And I'm really hoping it's the other.
But,
because we know with JR, he's a character, and I mean that in the best way. But with that, we know come certain things that aren't always the best, and I'm always hoping the best for J.R.
I root
Smith,
for J.R. Smith very hard too.
Yep. Even when he's done what he's done the last season, Andy. Even when he ran the ball back and LeBron wanted to kill him, I don't even hold him. I still think that everyone's wrong about that. I think that he thought that they were going to call a timeout, which I think they should have called, and I still just don't think that was his fault. But we'll leave that again, talking about the finals,
that's a good transition, because I think we've hammered the Cavs offseason. Read the article. I think it's great. To wrap up, this is kind of, I mean, there's been some sports stories coming in and out, but it hasn't been the most busiest week for me when it comes to like headlines and grabbing things. But, this is a unique situation. 4 years in a row, we had the Cavs and Warriors. And, honestly, I think it's going to look back upon Lakers and Celtics was over not just one period in the 80s, though it's over decades. I mean, they played each other forever. But, in a 4-year window, the Cavs and Warriors played every year in the NBA Finals. That's a very unique thing. And I think it's going to be very hard to ever repeat, to be honest with you, Jared. It is very weird this year because, as you alluded to, the Raptors are up right now in Game 1. It's just weird not seeing the Cavs and the Warriors be playing like this. And they really did. I was reflecting upon it. Obviously 16 is our favorite. There's not even question. But that whole 4-year run was those games, it felt like it lasted months. It felt like it lasted weeks. Those series were so intense. They were all, the only one really was last year after Game 1. But honestly, even in 17, I felt like the Cavs still had a chance even when they were down 0-3. I know it sounds crazy, but I truthfully did. And obviously 15 and 16, I did. But those games were competitive. So many just exude, for the NBA, which I'm kind of similar as you. I love baseball, love football. I love college basketball. For whatever reason, the NBA, to me, I do love the Cavs, and I get into the NBA, but it's definitely not as much of a love as those other two. Jared, I was never as passionate, like Browns, Broncos, all those things, and more about Cavs and Warriors. I was so ramped up into it. I read everything. I listened to every radio show. I watched every Sports Center. I was really glued all years and when they played in the NBA Finals.
That was, so 3 times in my life have I been just completely engulfed in Cleveland sports, where it just was, it was everything. And that was when I was, one time it was when it was my first experience with falling in love with a sports team. And that was in the mid 80s, right? In the Browns. The mid to late 80s. I was a young kid that just couldn't get enough of it. Couldn't get enough. Didn't know enough about it, but couldn't get enough, and all I cared about was that. The next time was in the mid 90s when I was depressed for the Browns leaving and thank God for the Cleveland Indians. That mid-90s Indians team, even into some of the early 2000s, great. A blip here and there later, but that mid-90s Indians time frame was just insane. Glued. I was at the park every frickin' weekend if I could be. Always there. And now the next time with the Cavs. And it was just, I felt like a kid again, Andy, watching it. It's so funny because there, as a former military guy, I've got friends all around the world, and they know me as the guy who loves Cleveland sports. And at any given moment during that time with the Cavs, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting DMs on Facebook, and everyone just wants to know, it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, Andy, because I thought to myself, why am I not just talking about it on a show? You want my opinion? Stop messaging me. I've got plenty of opinions. Let me just put it here. Let me record it and give it to everyone. And that's what and that's what I do. And so that's what that was. And I all I can do is look forward to the next time it happens again. And wouldn't it be nice if it's the Browns? Wouldn't it be nice to come back full circle to my childhood and let it be the Browns? I'm not going to count chickens, but God bless. Andy, that time with the Cavs, I'm super grateful for. It was even more fun to have the 16 Indians and compound that because you had the Cavs there at those games. Andy, it's going to be one of the most memorable times of my life in regard to sports.
Well, I mean, I don't need to say more. I mean, obviously, I've made a whole film about it. So what I will say, I don't know if I can say much more. I
had to redo the fucking ending.
But the one thing I'll say about the Cavs and Warriors, because I agree with everything you just said. The Cavs and Warriors was global. Cubs Indians was also global, where it felt like the whole world was watching. Not just the whole nation, the whole world was watching. And that's...
I have friends that have converted to Cleveland sports fans. Like the Cleveland sports is their new love because they have seen how passionate I have been, and it's translated. Go ahead. I didn't mean to step on you.
Cavs and Warriors. That's why to me it was such unique. And we're not going. We all know the positives and the negatives. We all know our favorite moments or our hated moments. The point of bringing it up is that it's great that the Cavs won a championship, and that's the best thing about it. We should take a step back. Cavs Warriors was a really special sports rivalry for 4 years. And it was heated, and they didn't like each other, and there was many moments. There was trash talking. There was coaches. David Black gets fired. I mean, everything that you could have had in a rivalry happened with Cavs and Warriors. And I started reflecting about it today. It feels weird that they're not playing in the finals. And by the way, it's not a surprise. It's not anything shocking, but I just think for people out there, 16 is 16. No one's ever debating that. But Cavs Warriors in those 4 years, Jared, was a global, not just nation, not just Cleveland and Oakland or San Francisco too. It was a global event. And the Super Bowl's that way, obviously, yes. So we'll have a chance to be there again. But that's the first time as a Cleveland fan, I felt like everyone around the world was watching. It was very, very cool. And, hopefully the Cavs can get back there again and do all the different stuff. And, again, just a special time. And hopefully the Raptors, God, I will say this, and then I'll let you wrap. I will say I still hate the Warriors. I still don't like them. Nothing against them. Nothing against Warriors fans. I have actually some close friends who are Warriors fans who are on my mom's side of the family. I just cannot stand the Warriors. Ugh. Love to see them lose. Okay, will you watch any of the NBA finals?
That's how I feel. I'm probably going to go and watch this game. I'm kind of intrigued at this moment. I'm intrigued because we're closing out the third quarter here, and the the Raptors are somehow still up 10.
Cool.
Well, 9. So I don't know, Andy. I don't know when this is going to end with the Golden State Warriors. I'm really bummed that all of a sudden they came to life when I thought we were going to have a little dynasty. I'm not going to lie. That makes me a little bitter. I wish we could have split And barring injuries in that first series against the Warriors, we would have split.
I'm glad you brought that up because people need to not Clevelanders, people who are outside of Cleveland. You must remember in 2015, it wasn't just Love. Kyrie Irving was also hurt, and that really changed that whole dynamic of the.
His kneecap was broken.
So that whole series dynamic changed on that play. The 15 injuries really caught up with them. One other thing, real quick too.
And they almost did it.
Game 3 with Dellavedova and coffee. I will never forget. The other thing too, real fast, that I do want to bring up. I got one or two guys who are very, very close and in those NBA circles. Jarid, I think, unless something very shocking happens, from what I know, and I guess I do have a source. I do have one good source. Durant's gonna be a Knick. I think it's gonna take something major, major, major not for that to happen. From everything I'm hearing.
Wow.
I think unless false information is being passed, which could easily happen. That's why it's just a rumor. From everything that I know, and this one guy is very, very close knit in these circles, Durant's gonna be a Knick. It's gonna take something very, very drastic to change that, unless some possum's being played with messaging, which by the way could easily happen. But the messaging he's receiving and hearing, Durant's gonna be a Knick.
Yeah, I don't even know how to respond to that. I'd really need to look because that just, I mean,
we'll have to see. But that's what I'm hearing inside.
That's strange.
It
that's
is.
surprising.
No, it is. But that's this guy's very anyways. Well,
I mean, I expected him to move. I didn't think he'd head back this way. I didn't think
time will tell. Time will tell. Anyways,
was.
That's for another podcast. But I did talk to someone, and we were just talking about different things, and he was covering the NBA playoffs, and he goes, I am really hearing strong things that it's almost a lockadini that he's going to the Knicks. It'd have to take something very drastic to change it.
Maybe Draymond Green will be happy then, I guess.
Gosh, yeah, poor Boohoo, and Klay Thompson too. Klay Thompson's a free agent. So.
Yeah, and I think I've heard Iguodala wants out too.
Oh, wait.
To be honest,
you know what? I don't care. Go. Go.
Yeah, no, seriously, break it up. Break it up.
Bye.
Break it up.
Why would you leave that situation? Jeez Louise.
Do you dislike this Warriors team more than you disliked the Bulls teams of old?
Oh boy, Jordan.
I know.
Jordan. Oh,
I know.
Gosh. Oh, that's a really hard question to answer.
Isn't it? I gotta tell you,
I still hate the Bulls.
I still hate. I know. So do I. I have loved every bit of how shitty they have been.
Never more well deserved.
Since he's been
in
gone.
my opinion, sorry to say. I'm
dead serious. They have never been able to get it together. Oh, Derrick Rose? Nope, not Derrick Rose. No.
And again, I got a lot of good friends who are Chicago fans, including my aunt is a huge Bulls fan. Sorry, never well deserved more. I'll be honest with you, it's very different because the Bulls really did step on our hearts. They really did, and specifically 23. He really, really did. What I would say is this: Jordan was like Elway, that he carried the hate even more so than the team itself. In the Warriors' case, it's really a combined effort of hate. I equally hate Curry as much as I do Green, and I mean, they're all.
Yeah, no, you're right. They all got stupid faces. I feel they all got really
again,
punchable
I'm sure
faces.
Curry's a nice guy. Again, this is all business of fandom, not personal. And let me just say this too.
That's why I'm laughing with it too.
But now to further, I will. If my kid ever chewed that mouthpiece the way Curry does, I'm like, buddy. No, I can't. And by the way, it's a cool thing that Curry has created, but he's so the Warriors are so I can't stand it. Can't stand it. All that to be said, they're still up. Hopefully it continues. It looks like the Tribe's going to lose. Again,
Speaking of punchable faces, funny, we can wrap this in full circle. Didn't Jordan punch Kerr in the face at a practice
a lot of
once?
rumors
Didn't
about,
that happen, or am I making that up?
Jordan was not very well likable, as we all know.
No, not at all. Except for, I told you the offline story.
Yeah, Jordan. Yeah, I remember that. I won't say anything more.
Yeah, that frustrates me.
Jared Watson's got a great.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to have
Jared
inside
Watson's
stories without the audience knowing.
That I can never top.
I have a Michael Jordan. Yeah, I've got a Michael Jordan story that I can't.
Wonderful story.
Talk about.
I won't tease it anymore. Big start for Trevor Bauer tomorrow. He really needs to pitch well. It looks like the Indians are going to lose, so which is fine if you bounce back and win. And this is a chance for him again. Please pick up the load, be an ace, and get that win. Big start for him tomorrow.
Hey, don't forget, listen to the show, andyandjared.com, clevelandandbeyond.net. That's the website. You can listen to the show right there, follow along with the blog, all that good stuff. Also, email us, andyandjared@gmail.com, andyandjared@gmail.com. Jared spelled with an I, Jarid. On Twitter, @CLE&Beyond, @CLE&Beyond. On Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. And of course, don't forget, you can also find us on waitingfornextyear.com. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. The Raptors are still winning, and I'm actually going to watch it. Have a great day, morning, night, whatever it is. Take care.
That's okay.